need to say something, and it's something I've noticed since the start of this Israeli government, Hamas government war or violence that's going on, is the way that it's filtrated into our relationships. As an artist, something that I've noticed is that, well, first of all, I have friends with extremely diverse perspectives, and I'm really happy that the majority of my friends have maintained like friendship with me. um, but one of the other things I did notice is that some people that are not as close to me, perhaps, but have been following me for a long time, I've noticed some people have unfollowed me, and the people that have are tend to have very polarized positions, either extreme Israel supporters to the point where it's really hard for them to see content that is outside of that narrative, and also people that are, I would say, extreme Palestine supporters where it's hard for them to see any content that might be out of that narrative, or even suggesting that there could be not questioning, just like drawing the narrative deeper and further than just like this contention between land and the victim and perpetrator dynamic, which I will say is definitely there, in my perspective. But anyway, what I'm saying is I think the most disturbing thing to me is that those people have been unable to like see that I'm trying to be a bridge, and I don't know how to be that bridge. It's like if there's one day where I'm not posting like something that validates and supports someone on the Israeli side and the Palestinian side at the same time, it's like I will lose either of those people, because they just cannot be in this area where they can see that there's like some gray, and that's really frustrating to me. But at the same time, it kind of makes sense, because that's how people work. I just sincerely don't think that this is the way to achieve peace, to be so polarized. Sure, there is a time to fight and to stand up for what you believe in, and perhaps that may come across as polarized. I would say I'm very polarized in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. For one, there's no terrorist activity from Ukraine towards Russia where there's a pocket of people that are trying to overtake Russia and no longer have Russia exist. Whereas in the Hamas versus Israeli government, what is happening is there are people on both sides that are trying to make the other people not exist. There are those people on both sides that are actively promoting that. So that is why this issue is so dangerous and complex. And I'm absolutely rushing Ukraine is hugely dangerous too, but it's just, I don't know if the answer is just to completely get on board with one side. What I will get on board with is I am completely against violence. I do not like blowing people up. I do not like missiles and bombs and terror attacks and government sanction attacks. I don't like that the American government is funding they're funding both Iran and the Israeli government, and Iran is really what kind of funds a lot of this terrorist activity across the Middle East. It's really and we're kind of involved in all of this because of what? Because we want some stake in that land and in that territory and in the resources there. It is ultimately, I mean, we use the word colonialism, but I think it's far more complex than that. It's really wanting resources, wanting power and control over a region, and everybody's kind of at it and wanting that. And I just wish that we could all live at peace in this society. I mean, ultimately, isn't that what we all want? And I just think we need to like think really carefully about how are our words and our relationships promoting that sense of peace. What brings the world closer to that sense of peace? Is it not being able to hear any opposing information that goes against your narrative? It can be quite confusing to live in that gray area. It really can. It's confusing to me, but I'd rather be confused and getting truthful information and digesting it all than polarizing to one side just because that makes me feel better. And I'm not saying, again, that's what everyone's doing. I just really am not sure how effective the approaches that we're taking in looking at this complex issue. I see significant violence and aggression and the desire for dominance and control coming from both sides. I see one side that currently has the power and control and is misusing that in a way that's not promoting more peace. I think both sides have some genocidal intention. That doesn't mean that everybody there does, but there are people on both sides that have that intention. There's one side that has currently a lot more manpower than the other in terms of executing that. And it's very concerning. In terms of the manpower, that could get twisted and it could get flipped onto another side where another side has more manpower. These are all things to really kind of think about. And that's why I just cannot endorse any more violence in any way. Like, I will not endorse, I condemn attacks against Israeli citizens, taking hostages, killing people, raping people. I condemn the Israelis that are also doing that, and imprisoning children and women for minor crimes. I completely condemn them bombing innocent civilians in a way that really, I can't see any evidence why that needed to be done in order to get into tunnels that were dug down, which likely don't even have any terrorists in there. And if they are in there, it's just like one or two, and it's really not worth blowing up tens of thousands of people, from my perspective. And what really shocks me, though, is like people that would be willing to unfriend me or unfollow me for my music or as a person, because I stand up and say, hey, can we just not blow people up anymore? I'm not buying that this narrative is useful. And also people that have unfollowed me for saying, hey, can we just not jump on the yay Hamas bandwagon? I can't support that. And it's kind of, it's incredible to me that after an attack that Hamas does, we also can't just say no. Like, that's also not okay. I promote speaking up against violence in any way that it shows up. So that's all I have to say. And I appreciate those people in my life who have been able to hold nuance and able to hold relationships despite the war. If relationships and families and communities are broken apart because of this, because we can't just have a dialogue, I think that really, really speaks to the problem itself. If we can't do that in our communities, how are people in that region supposed to do that and find peace and forgiveness and understanding and deep healing of trauma wounds, ancestral trauma wounds? So I'm going to leave it at that.